Today we're going to dive into the world of laser kicks. Open up Serum, you open up a sine wave, first like this, and another wave. This one has 0 volume. You go into the matrix, and in the matrix you go to envelope 2, envelope 3. Global master tune, global master tune. And then you take envelope 2 and 3 and you make them something like this. Why do I need 2 envelopes to control the master tune? That's because you can then make more complex kick pitch automations. It just gives you a little bit more of an interesting effect. So there you go. Okay, so what you need to do is take FM from B and you take an LFO because there's no envelopes left. You put this on envelope like so. Add this to the FM. Now we have this kind of effect. So let's put it at a comfortable pitch. Let's put it at like G sharp or A sharp. So now we have this effect. What you can then do is tweak the envelopes, tweak this thing here and this amount. So those 3 things, that's the first tip. You can play around with those. So you can change the envelopes. Let's see what happens. We can loop this. As you can hear, that totally changes it. So you can change the envelopes, you can change this. That changes the sound considerably. You can also change these amounts, but I really like how they are right now. So let's keep that. And then finally change the waveform. So you can see that as a different effect. Especially if you go into these spectral ones. And now you just gotta keep on fine-tuning until you find something that sounds good to you. So consider ourselves lucky. I like this. Open up a reverb, just like so. Open LFO 2, put it something like this so you get a reverse reverb effect. Add this to the mix, like so. Get a compressor, take your multiband, take it down, tag, release, and then you get this. That's so much better already. Listen to the difference. That's really powerful, so make sure it doesn't clip. Now we're gonna take a distortion and you can put it on something that's very subtle. So if I take hard clip and put it open, it's like this. I don't like that. Same with like diode. You don't want like a hardstyle kick. You want something, not this. That's just like, I don't want that. It's hardcore. I want something very subtle. So let's, this is more like it. So what I can do is, you know, make sure that at the beginning it's a little bit more punchy or just reversed, whatever, put it in an envelope. So at the beginning, I don't want any major distortion because then I get a really thumpy top kick. But at the end, I want a crunchy end. I want like a sound, you know? So that's another trick. Put this distortion plugin and then just make sure that it works well. Another thing you can do in Serum before we dive into rendering it and just processing it further is take this, put it at something like this rate, whatever you want, and then add this to the noise. Let's put it at BPM 1/4 because now you can play this, how do you call it, like solo. You have this sound. So then you can go into attack mix or whatever it's called. So now we have this. As you can hear, that's pretty cool. So what you need to do is realize that this is a very important part of your laser kick. You need to be like playing around with the following things. The FM from B with this with this LFO and just the amount. You can add this noise thingy, add an envelope as well. Make sure you control it and then just play around until you find something that you like. Then you can change the amount of envelope 2 and 3 to the master tune. So that's like the pitch and the amount it pitches up and down. And you can do this as well in the envelope. So you play around with the decay and with this knob here. And finally, you can play around with this thing here because you FM this waveform based on this waveform. So if you change this here and you have it as your punch, you get a different sound. So You just gotta keep on processing and just fine tuning until you find something that sounds good to you. And this can take like 30 minutes, 1 hour, it doesn't matter. At some point you'll find something that's dope, as long as you follow the steps. The second part is, let's just render this thing that we created right here, and just render it like long. There you go. So I'm going to render this. Drag and drop it into your DAW. The first thing I always suggest you to do is just separate the top from like the punch a little bit, because in this case we're going to make a punch from a different sample. So you make this unique, add this to your mixer as well, so you have the punch and the crunch separated. Take a fruity limiter or anything with a gain automation, put it like this, and then make sure it just kind of opens up. Okay, you want something that just blends from punch into crunch beautifully. So there we go. Now you have your punch and your crunch separated. For as far as this thing here is called a punch, it's just like a whatever. But the most important part is that Serum is used to create a really good crunch, because in this case this is nice, but you can create that. But this is a little bit more tough to make just from scratch, you know, so that's why you use Serum. So what we can do then is go into a Hardstyle kick freebie or any sample pack of ours, but especially this kick freebie, Criminal Hardstyle Kicks 1 or Raw Fork Essentials. Anyways, these have kick parts folders, and this freebie here that you can download on our website has a lot of cool kicks. For example, these creative kicks. And we could just take something like this, and this is simple. You go on Splice and you literally look for something like laser kick or weird kick or anything that just suggests something that's a kick but just a little bit weird. You can take laser effects, whatever you want, and then just use it. And you can play around with the pogo. This is very important. If you're making laser kicks, pogo on your punch is going to save your life. So you can use this as well, but it's very important to use pogo, because this is the difference. What pogo does, I'm not really 100% sure, like in the technical terms, but it seems it kind of pulls the sample to the left, and it does that a little bit by pitching it, and makes it shorter, makes it punchier, and makes sure it gets a little bit more like a laser effect. So that's great. So what we want to do next is control this punch, because now it's playing all over the place, and the out doesn't really work for that. So let's put it down just like this, make it a little bit shorter, just like so. And then we already have this sound. That's very nice. So the second thing you want to do is open up this punch that you kind of separated from your kick, and you have it here. What I'm then going to do is take my parametric EQ, remove the bass from this punch that we separated, and then I'm going to combine these two into one channel. So that's your full punch going into one channel, and then in this channel I'm going to create another route to another channel, and in this channel it's going to be solely reverb. So let's take Valhalla Room just like this. In that reverb channel, put fruity limiter or anything to automate the gain. We have the gain automation going on. This will control the reverb. So the kick is playing, the punch is playing, and at the same time it's generating a reverb effect in another thing. So this is punch. Let's just work organized here. And as you can hear, that's really getting there. So now I'm going to show you a few tips that are very vital to creating these kind of laser kicks and making them work. You could say that this is already kind of good. The first thing I'd say, on your reverb channel, play around with the reverb sound, because this is very important. You can use Little Alter Boy to really change the tone of it. So, and secondly, make sure to boost this volume a lot. So I'll use like multiband compressor from Camel Crusher or whatever it is. Yeah. So it just makes it more powerful. Now you can change the tone. Then in the punch and the crunch go into one thing. And one thing that's very important, laser kicks will get better when you remove certain frequencies. As you can hear, like, it... You can clean up your kicks this way. But anyways, second of all is Serum effects. Specifically the multiband compressor in Serum. So you can use the Serum effects plugin in your effect chain and just add it and just, you know, don't make it too aggressive. And we gotta tweak it a little bit, but... You can hear the difference, by the way. So just to sum up where we're at, play around with the phase of this whole kick. You would get a very nice sound to work with. And that's what we're doing here. If you take down this knob, it means that the wet channel gets like mixed with the dry channel. And you can see that this creates like phasing issues because some of the wet and the dry signal are similar. So in this case, a little bit more distortion to make it powerful. And then I'm adding some corrective EQing. And then I'm adding an inflator. And an inflator, I'm not 100% sure what it does, but it's basically like gets the whole kick to like the same level of volume, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, it just makes your kick so much better. So there we go. And the final thing I'm adding is a limiter to cut down the peaks. And then I'm adding Ozone 8 as well. And I'm removing all these plugins, adding the imager. And in the imager, I'm simply going to remove the sub. The sub will be mono. Everything else is fine. So the final thing I'll do is go into my reverb channel. And in this reverb channel, I'm adding Ozone as well. And there I'm adding the imager. And I'm going to stereoize everything. So, because your kick gets wider. So now we have this thing here. And I'm going to render it. And now we have this kick. And you can see that it's a little bit too, how would you call it? Like, there's not a lot of volume going on in here. But I guess that's fine. You know, if it sounds good, it is good. And I think it sounds pretty good. So, yeah, now we have this kick here. And it's playing. And we basically went from this thing to this. So to give a small recap, we go into Serum, and in Serum you create sine wave, an oscillator B, FM goes from B, you have this noise thingy, it's like the attack of the kick, reverb, distortion, multiband compression. That's the order you always do. Matrix, envelope 2 and 3 go to the master tune, and you play around with this, you play around with this waveform, you play around with these two envelopes, and you play around with the amount of your FM. You render that kick, and in that kick you literally put it here. And it's important that you separate the bass from the punch, because the punch is not necessarily that important. It's the crunch and the bass. Like this thing here is hard to create from scratch, so that's why we use Serum. Then you add whatever creative kick, or you work with this thing here and you play around with the pogo. But anyways, add a kick and use pogo, because the first punch of your kick needs to be like, you know, you could even record like, and then just use that. Control the punch volume, control the crunch volume, make them blend together. And then the punch, whatever amount of punches you're using, go into the same channel. And in this channel, you create a reverb channel. And in this reverb channel, you add the following things. Distortion, or multiband compressor, I mean, just to boost the volume more. Make sure the bass is gone. Control the tone with like a formant shift or anything that works. And make sure it's very wide. That's the only thing, like stereo imaging. Take these channels, put them into one channel. And in this channel, you just cut frequencies. There's three things that you're doing here. You're cutting frequencies. You're adding Serum effects for multiband compressor, because that really defines these laser kicks, because Serum Project mainly makes them, and they are using Serum, and they most likely use like this multiband compressor. Anyways, the feel of the kick gets so much better with that. And then the third thing is create phasing issues, or you could call it issues. I'm calling it like solutions because it's working. Create like things with phasing. Just play around. You can do it this way. You could do it with like bend stops, but whatever makes your kick stand out. Because here's the difference. You can hear the difference. This is... you need to cut out frequencies because that gets that like that hollow, really festival psychic vibe, you know? So then you just corrective EQ it, add a limiter to cut out the peaks, add an inflator because this really makes the difference, and then just add ozone and make sure the sub is mono. And then you render your kick, and there you have it. So that's laser kicks for you. There's much more to learn. I hope you enjoyed this one. Have a nice day. Bye.